Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Shankran Prabhu, Danvat Pranam. Prabhuji, I have a question like Bhishma Dev is a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and my question is, even though he take a vow that he will stick to the king, and he will serve the king, but as a devotee, if there is something happening bad, um, he wants to he wants to protect that, right, Prabhuji? I'm not understanding why he was calm while Draupadi is is getting problem in that in the palace, and even why he was fighting against the Lord. I'm just asking.
Um, Actually, I think this question is your question is twofold. One is why he was silent when Draupadi was being insulted in the Kuru's assembly.
Yeah, my question is like what we read, Prabhu, like urge to anger. So for ourselves, if there is any blasphemy, um, we can be okay. But while the Lord, besides of the Lord or besides of the devotees, if we see any bad things, we cannot keep quiet, right, Prabhuji? Bhishmadev is a very great devotee of the Lord. That is my question. And two questions like why he fought against Krishna, and why he was silent in the Kurukshetra. Yeah.
Sure. So, as far the first question is concerned, why Bhishma Dev remained silent when Draupadi was being insulted. The whole situation was actually very tricky that time. And now when we hear, looks like, it was so simple and clear, he should have, picked up the weapons and punished the Duryodhana and his party immediately from doing that. But when you are in that situation, it's very difficult to make a decision, because Bhishma Dev was also has taken vow that in the king, whoever occupied the throne as a king, he would always see the image of his father, and thus he'll be obedient to that king. And this vow he had taken mainly to satisfy his mother Satyavati, because Satyavati's father, who was actually fisherman, he was worried that what if Bhishma tomorrow revolts against the children who occupy the throne. So he had taken a vow that he will always see the image of his father in whoever occupied the throne. So situation was such a tricky situation that Dhritarashtra, Bhishma Dev never imagined that somebody like Dhritarashtra would occupy the throne. And in him, he has to see the image of his father. His father, Maharaj Shantanu, was actually befitting king to the Kuru Vansha. He was actually a befitting king in the dynasty. But Dhritarashtra was not like that. And because Bhishma had taken the vow, he was obliged to see, even Dhritarashtra as representative of his father, Maharaj Shantanu. And nowadays it's very common that people can disobey their father, but a great soul like Bhishma Dev could never imagine of disobeying the father. So therefore, he actually remained silent in that assembly. He pleaded, not that he was not pleading, he was pleading to the king to do the justice, but he couldn't raise the voice against the king because he was bound by his oath. So that was one of the very complicated situation because of his vow, his loyalty to the king. He couldn't actually protect Draupadi in that situation. He tried in whatever capacity he could, but he couldn't. He, in one way, you can say he failed to protect Draupadi, and that was also actually Krishna's pastime. Krishna wanted to show that. Even great generals like Bhima, Arjun, Nala, Sakruta, Sahadeva, Santanu, Sahadeva, Sangama, 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 Sangama and Yudhishthira Maharaj, they can't protect anyone. Krishna can, material nature can create situation like that no one else can protect you, but only the Supreme Lord is capable of protecting you. And coming to the second question, why Bhishma had to fight against Krishna? That's just a pastime, because the Lord always likes to have the different rasas. So one of the 12 rasas is the rasa of chivalry. Where the Lord also desires that he wants to fight. So sometimes the devotees try to satisfy the desire of the Lord fighting. So Krishna also on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, though he was not directly fighting, but he was relishing Bhishma Dev shooting arrows at him. Because Krishna had taken the part of the chariot driver of Arjun. And chariot driver is also one of the prime target to be killed by the opponent party. So, since Krishna was playing the role of Parthasarathi and Bhishma was fighting on other side, it was actually to great satisfaction of the Lord that Bhishma was shooting arrows at Krishna also. And that was his devotional service to Krishna. And another lesson Lord also wanted to teach the whole world is that even if you are a great personality like Bhishma, who has the boon of dying at his own will. Now just imagine, if somebody comes to the battlefield with that boon, that he will die only when he wishes to die, who can really stand in front of such a person? Nobody can really, dare to come in front of that person, because he will die only when he wishes to die. So therefore, that was one of the reasons why Duryodhana was so confident. But Krishna wanted to show the world that even if you are as a great general as Bhishma, who never faced defeat in any of the battles throughout his life, Bhishma was always victorious. Even when he fought with his guru, Parshuram, he defeated even Parshuram, who had annihilated all the Kshatriyas 21 times. Even him he defeated. So such a great general, when he's on the side of adharma, is bound to be defeated. So Krishna wanted to teach also the lesson that the dharma is always victorious. A person who is on the side of adharma can never expect any good fortune or victory.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That helps a lot.
Very well, Mani.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanat Pranam. It's Narottam Vilas Asir Prabhu.
Very well,
I have a
Mani.
Prabhu, question, the 31st verse about the Kshatriyas, Prabhu. So in the purport, Prabhu says, a person who follows the Kshatriya principles by protecting society from thieves and miscreants is called a Kshatriya, not the one who is simply born as a Kshatriya. So we see the soldiers we have on the battlefield or protecting the country. So can they be considered as Kshatriyas, and when they die during the battle, protecting the country, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, will doors of heaven open for them because they are dying, in the line of duty, so to say? Does that?
Yes, in a battle where a person is trying to protect the people from the harm, especially like the countries, for example, India is a country where they generally never wage war against others, but they simply try to defend their country. So the soldiers of that country definitely can be counted as truly Kshatriyas if they don't show the back on the battlefield, if they're willing to die on the battlefield simply to protect the citizens. So they definitely attain the better destination. But not the countries like, simply to plunder others' resources from the other countries. They wage the wars. Those are not considered Kshatriyas. They are just plunderers, thieves and rogues. So those soldiers, they don't, because they are fighting on the order of some thieves and rogues, they are not regarded as Kshatriyas. They don't
They-
attain better destination.
So they can be called as aggressors instead of being defenders.
Aggressive or bunch of thieves and rogues. That's it.
Okay, bro. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, but in that case, Prabhuji, if you see the Army of United States, okay, now when they recruit, generally they recruit people from students, from colleges and like that, you know. So they don't, nobody has a Kshatriya quality in them. Means they are recruiting the Shudras in the army, right? Directly from. So and when they go in the war and when they face the things, you know, a lot of people are scared and they have a mental, you know, mental inequilibrium because of the war and all those things. So they are not called Satriyas, right? In actuality.
No, they're not. In such a case, such a person cannot be referred as Kshatriya. No. In fact, Prabhupada was so critical that during Vietnam War, you know, they were actually trying to force people to recruit, and the boys, young boys, they were cutting off their fingers so that they should not be drafted into the army. Prabhupada said, this is not Kshatriya. People are so much afraid of war and you just want to force them to go to war. So that is Shudra. The person who's drafting or forcing others is also Shudra. And people who are actually afraid, they are also Shudras. The Kshatriya is delighted at the news of the war. You know, he goes in forefront. Not even like the modern day presidents or, you know, ministers who simply sit in secured place. You know, they will hide into their secured place, and from there they will just give speech. Oh, good, you go for the war, you know, but they will be hiding themselves. That is not really a Kshatriya. He is really a Shudra. I mean, in that way, if you see the president of United States in ancient time, they used to be actually generally the generals who served in the army in the forefront, not like modern presidents who are afraid of their lives and they just hide into the, you know, hideouts whenever the war takes place. They will just send innocent people into the war, but they themselves will live comfortably in the air-conditioned office. But actual kings, actual Kshatriyas, they would be always in the forefront in the war.
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji.
Like even in Mahabharata, Duryodhana was in the forefront. Though he was corrupt, you know, but he was always in the forefront. He never ever withdrew from the war.
Prabhuji, but
Haribol?
Sorry, Shashananda Madhaprabhu, I mistakenly muted you. You can unmute.
yeah. So, Prabhuji, in this situation, that is the most of the countries have the same situation.
Yeah, that is right. So most of the armies are actually armies of Shudras or lower than Shudras.
Prabhuji, so how would you say for the armies that were fighting on behalf of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, even they were also self-interested, right? But then they attained the Swargaloka. And,
Well, you know, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the most important aspect of that battle is because the Supreme Lord was personally present on the battlefield. So everyone who fought on that battle was actually a very fortunate soul. Even ordinary people who were actually in the war, they were elevated. They were actually elevated. When they died seeing Krishna on the battlefield, all those people attained actually the spiritual world. They went back home, back to Godhead.
that's it. Thank you, Prabhuji.
I have one more question, Prabhuji. If nobody else, I'll ask.
Go ahead, Madhuri.
Prabhuji, I don't know the whole story, but we are reading Bhagavad Gita introduction, so first chapter. So one of the question was asked that the Pandaraju left the kingdom and he went to the forest. How come the Pandavas because the Kshatriya cannot do like that, right? Panduraj left the kingdom by himself. Why then Pandavas came and claimed for some portions they want to rule? It was asked by someone, Prabhu.
No, I didn't get your question, Madhi. They retired, but what was your last part of your question?
I don't know the story. Did the Panduraju left the kingdom? He didn't rule. I mean, he renounced the as a Kshatriya. He renounced it, Prabhu. I don't know.
Which king you're talking about? Pandavas you're talking about?
Pandava's father.
Pandu, Maharaj Pandu.
Maharaj Pandu.
Okay.
So he left to the forest as a Kshatriya. He can't do like that, but he left to the forest. How come the Pandavas again come and claim for some portion to rule the kingdom? They asked.
Mati, he didn't go to forest as a Vanaprasthi. He went to the forest just as a excursion, or some sport in a sportive way. He took his wives and went to the forest to spend some time in the forest. He didn't retire from his duties as a king. So he was still the king. When he was in the forest, he was still the king. On his behalf, Bhishma was actually taking care of, Bhishma and Vidura, they were actually taking care of administrative duties.
Sure, Prabhuji. Okay, thank you.
Prabhuji, same question what Sirisha Mate asked, but after coming to the Hastinapur, he got cursed. Panduraj got cursed. That's why he went to the forest, no, Prabhuji.
Mati, he had the curse, but he didn't go to forest because of the curse. He didn't retire from his duty as a king. He didn't take Vanaprastha. A king can actually take Vanaprastha and go to forest. Then he has no claim. And even though he may not have claim, but his children can still claim the throne. Now, when he went to the forest, there he had actually children. He actually told Kunti and Madri to invoke the devas because he couldn't beget children in them. So he asked them to use the mantra given by Durvasa Muni to invoke the presence of devas to give them children. So he was definitely not retired. He was thinking of, who will take care of the kingdom after him. So he was very much in the role of the king.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So if no more questions, I think we can stop here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.